Well, we're
Show
live, so I sure
notes.
hope so.
Oh, okay. Well, hi.
Okay.
Hello. Um, Testing local. Testing, testing. I think we're fine. Yeah.
I have off tomorrow. So excited.
I don't, but I have no I only have one meeting tomorrow. For now, that I know of.
It's a
So,
lot for no meeting Friday.
Oh, man.
let you know what? We take the wins where we can get them.
Every time we go to record, I open Audacity and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to update it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, not doing that now.
Yeah. No, yeah, my whole day was basically playing calendar Tetris and completely filled up my calendar today, and then had like a full hour of meetings, just like people just didn't show up, just accepted and just, no, I'm not going. Don't tell anybody. Just let everybody sit on the call for 15 minutes before they, give up. So,
Hmm.
yeah. There's two separate meetings where that happened back to back too. Yeah.
Oh man, Nayada's
Displeased.
playing Staff on stream.
It's just,
That's
Who is?
that's Nayada
Oh, yeah.
on patch day. That makes me sad.
Hello, Matt.
I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing to let everybody figure out on their own terms, to go through the 5 stages of grieving with Maestra and Noel, and then
It's
because I've already played against a couple of them
Rogue's
tonight.
still all right, by the way.
Oh
Still
No,
doing.
yeah, of
no,
course it is.
no.
You take out the or the null Maestra and you throw in. I guess I don't know what people are doing, but I'm assuming you put in Mailbox Dancer again and possibly Draka.
Uh, 2 dancers and then the last gone fishing. Yeah.
Oh sure,
Um,
yeah, that works too.
I'll just
Yep.
post this in the chat. Um,
Yeah, that
You
seems
need to
normal.
put a content warning on that,
But
Matt. Like, that's not
but
okay.
I can obliterate them now.
You can. And I was worried that my opponent was going to, and then they died. But they could have not died.
They're a warrior hat.
I mean, they could have. There could have been a buckler shield slam situation. One of them died. I did get to hit them for 19, but then one of them died. Yeah. Oh, Burger Club. I'm glad you're here. I'm gonna reach out to you about coaching today, unless Edelweiss can get you.
Oh, uh,
That was an issue with me on the sheet. I forgot to update the email address, but I added them.
okay.
We'll talk about
I
it
have a
after the
bunch
show.
of people that I have to message again because it was like, do you want to wait until after the patch? Yeah. So.
Yeah, that came up a lot for me too, and I do.
Yep.
After playing a
Funny
little
how
bit
that
today, I
works.
do feel confident that things will be enough different. Anyways, we'll talk about that on our Hearthstone podcast, which we're about to do. So,
Oh, is that what we're doing?
that is what we're doing. Are you all ready to
Oh,
do
okay.
it?
I have an Audacity open.
Well, that's good.
That's the first step.
Wanting to play Hearthstone pretty clutch.
Yeah, I need to learn not to jump into playing a whole bunch of games right after like a solid 8-hour day of meetings, because it's not going to improve my mood. Even if it's better than it was before, I'm still not going to see the positives because I'm not wired to at that point.
You should jump into Hi-Fi Rush. That's what you should do.
I am actually done with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wasn't good.
It's relying a lot more on memorizing combos than I would like, and there is way too much wandering around and not nearly enough hitting things on in time with the beat.
That's a shame.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, it's well made, but it's just like was expecting something a little bit closer to like Metal Hellsinger, which is just like straight like if you're gonna make an action game, make an action game. but this is like they're trying to be a little bit too much like they're trying to be Sunset Overdrive, like not open world, but you know like a lot of getting to the thing, and I just want to hit things, and it's not letting me hit things enough.
I like where this has gone. All right. You all ready to record? And then I'll hit the button. Did I tell our Discord? I didn't. I'm going to tell our Discord.
Did you tweet?
Obviously.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
All right. Tweeted, pinged. Yeah. Ready?
I am recording.
Recording?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
Hello and welcome to episode 380 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, January 26th in the evening. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Nomergon, Ohio, we have Edelweiss.
Hello.
Hello. And from Northern Massachusetts, we have With Good.
Hi.
Hi. And from where you are, listener, we have you. Thank you so much for being here. For our patrons, thank you so much for being patrons, supporting us. For our live viewers, what's up? For everyone that's left us a review, thank you so much. Really helps other people find the show. Our newest patron, Night Owl 6. I relate to your sleep habits. Thank you so much for supporting Coin Concede. All right. Life. Ladder. Steve. What is Pocket Card Jockey?
It is the best game that we're not doing a podcast about. So this was a game that was on 3DS like 10 years ago, and they just ported it to Apple Arcade this week, and it is delightful. And if you have Apple Arcade, you should just go and download it right now. And when you're in a place where you don't have enough bandwidth, like either mental or internet, to play Hearthstone, you should play this because it's delightful. It is a horse racing sim, except that the way that you manage your horse during the race is by playing rounds of solitaire. And so the more cards you clear on the tableau in solitaire, the faster your horse runs. And that's the game. So I named my horse 29 for sure. And it is a delightful. It's made by the same people who made Pokemon. It's made by Game Freak. So, it's actually by a developer you will recognize. It was like, this was like the golf story of 3DS, and they just came out with it like last week, and it has been like a lot of what I've been playing this past week, and it is absolutely delightful. And that is because until the patch came, I was not enjoying Hearthstone very much, and I've kind of rescued my rank a little bit with Pure Paladin today, but I was not enjoying the meta, and therefore I was not playing well. And when I was playing, and I was playing less, and that's a thing that happens.
Yep.
So I was facing Diamond 1 and Diamond 2 players in Legend last night and this morning. So yeah, that's kind of how much I've not liked this meta in retrospect. But I am optimistic that things are going to improve. At least I'm hoping I will have fewer jackpot rogues to complain about, if nothing else.
I feel confident there will be fewer. I don't know if they'll go away.
I've already
And
faced a
it-
couple tonight already.
Yeah,
So
and there may be casino mages to give that new and exciting I can play whatever I want experience, but they will at least, for the most part, probably all of them, will start as the class that they want to play.
yeah,
That helps.
I can mulligan again. Imagine.
Crazy. Edelweiss, I see that you were excited to brew again. I am excited for you to brew again.
Yeah, I kind of have been playing an excessive amount of Elden Ring because I was pretty much just doing dailies for a while on Hearthstone. And every 3 days, not every day. I did play a bit more when the BG's patch came out because that was interesting to explore, try some undead things. But yeah, now the patch is out, I just got back from work, took a look at all the stuff. I did get a little distracted by a legal document that we'll talk about later, I guess. But in general, I am optimistic for enjoying this new meta because I played 4 games of Blood DK and I won all of them. So that's really what I was looking
100%
for.
win rate. We're good.
Not on account of anything that got rebalanced in terms of its favor, just in terms of other stuff getting worse. And people haven't switched to Druid and Mindlock yet.
It's more about the void than the changes. And
Yeah.
turns out, turn 2 0 mana rushers and dying whenever you played minions both were limiting to format expression. So, yeah, that's what I found too. I've been playing mostly Conquest matches in the past week or so. It's still in THL, and I'm enjoying the Conquest format because you can just ban one of the decks that you don't want to see. But,
Yeah.
high power, and, of course, in both Last Hero Standing and Conquest, you kind of just have to ban the Rogue. So I definitely faced a hard counter Demon Hunter lineup where I played Demon Hunter and they conceded on 5 because they were big spell mage, and I got Sathino with Predation in play on turn 3, and then they just kind of were dead now. Like, that's just kind of how that goes. So, you know what? Glad they nerfed it. We'll talk about the specifics. I did not expect the evisceration of the final showdown, but also I am not super upset about it, assuming they revert it when it goes back to wild and I can play with Brood again. But been trying some stuff today. I love the first 3 hours of the patch because it happens right while Jambray is streaming. And I go and find... I don't need a large sample size. I don't want a large sample size. I go and find anything that is over 50%. And, I can hitch my wagon to this for a couple games. And the first list that I found by him that I picked up. So, something I didn't realize. We're going to talk about the patch notes extensively. But Azvedon used to be 3 mana 3/3 warrior legendary battlecry. Replay the last spell your opponent played. It is now a 3 mana 3/4 taunt.
Yep.
So Jambray added this card, Bulk Up. Edelweiss, you know this one. 2 mana warrior spell. Give a minion with taunt in your hand +1/+1 and create a copy of it. So I went turn 2 Bulk Up. My opponent went turn 3 Wild Spirits. I went Azvedon. They went turn 4 Wild Spirits. I went Azvedon. I won that game. It was very enjoyable. And I won the game by turn 9 because I just played stuff. Tidal Revenant the Face, that sort of thing. I had a Nelly in my hand that I didn't get the chance to use, but I did. Last Stand and Igneous Lava Gorger. It was a 6/10. That was enough. That was good enough. So, I enjoyed that. I have some Spell School Shaman queued up. It's probably bad. I'm waiting for some Warlock decks. I found one by Funky Monkey. I couldn't bring myself to queue it, but I did build it. Did import it, but I haven't queued it yet. But I'm hoping there's a way to Dark Drathir people. I don't know. I'm sure Mad at Arms will have a bunch of experiments. We'll try them all out.
Dragon Rider was trying on her stream, and then she ended up having to face it when an Evolved Shaman evolved into the Drakthyr, but she couldn't get hers down. So that was offensive appropriation if I've ever seen it. But
we'll see how the format's going to evolve, but listener, we don't have crazy deck lists for you. We don't know what's going to be good. It's 24, 25 cards. Some crazy amount of cards got changed. Way too early for us to really know. But I don't know. We're gonna wait and see what happens. And also, just as a reminder, this is the patch between Battlegrounds and the mini set. It's usually 4 weeks after Battlegrounds comes out that we get the mini set. We got Battlegrounds the 17th, which places the mini set on Tuesday, February 14th, also known as Valentine's Day. So, depending on your circumstances, you may get to enjoy this patch, assuming that's when it is, on the 14th or the 15th, whatever. But we should be expecting the mini set in 2.5 weeks-ish, assuming that prior trends are accurate. Don't have inside information, don't know anything for sure, who knows where things are going to land, whatever. But I would assume that February 14th is when we should expect the mini set, which means we should expect the reveal for the mini set the week before on Tuesday, February 7th. Because remember, the mini set season is pretty brief, 5 to 7 days. So it'll be the 7th to the 9th. They'll do 4 different days of reveals, class by class, neutrals first, I believe. Kind of like how they did for Maw and Disorder. Worked really well. Yeah. So we'll see. But the best thing to keep in mind is that as soon as this meta's figured out, it's going to change. So just have fun. Try some stuff out. Speaking of the patch, let's speak of the patch.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
There's a patch. It's large. It's big. Now, 25.2.2, we got a lot more here than just standard changes, but we're going to start with the standard changes because there are quite a few of them. First of all, let's talk about this dev comment. Oh, I put this on the wrong screen. I really don't want to resize this window. All right. Yeah, okay, we're fine. In general, our recent patch cadence has been faster than it has been in the past. This can make it more painful when updates are a little slower, such as around the holiday break period. We're discussing as a team how to make the patch schedule work a little better for future holiday periods. This is the first patch after the new March of the Lich King expansion where we have enough data to make significant and informed buffs to the new cards. Now that we have seen where the set's archetypes landed on a power basis, we know where we can safely inject a bit of power. Stop right there. Okay. Thank you for acknowledging this, Hearthstone dev team. Aleko already said this on Twitter, but I think it's nice for them to say, hey, we know this one dragged a little. And also, it did. That just, it did. So, I don't know what the solution's gonna be, but at least they know they need one. Cool.
Yeah.
Alright. Hey. Nerfs. Wild Pawn Knoll. I'm just watching Steve's face to see his reaction. Wild Pawn Knoll. It used to cost 1 less for each card you've added to your hand from another class. Now it costs 1 less for each non-rogue class card. Of a note, dual class cards are rogue cards. They are not non-rogue cards, so they will not reduce the cost of Knoll. It has to be a card that is exclusively classes that are not rogue. So,
Specifically, not Potion. Potion does
Yes.
not make this free anymore.
Anything that you draw because you traded a Blackwater Cultist or anything
Yeah.
else. Like, good. Get out.
doesn't interact with Maestra at all anymore. Just no, it does not talk to Maestra. And
Yeah.
that was an intended interaction, which the devs knew about it, they pushed it, they've talked about it, but it's gone now.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
was the change that Kibler kind of proposed when you two were talking on the Angry Chicken, right? Before we got the notes, but we knew what cards it was going to be.
Well, and he talked
This is
about it
what
in
he
a
was hoping
video a
for.
couple weeks back where he said cards should
Yeah,
cost
yeah.
mana. He was very clear on the Knoll interaction in particular, and I think that's...
Yeah.
The Maestra interaction. Yeah, it just felt weird and kept breaking. Anytime that rogues added cards to their hand, which honestly happens a lot, it just became a thing that had to be dealt with, and the result was always aggro decks getting pushed out by these decks that were supposed to be weak to aggro because they took a while to set up, because they had 0 mana, 5 health rushers. So, Knoll is probably gone unless you want to play Thief Rogue with no Maestra and you want to do it the hard way, which is the actual way that I think, not intended, but the intuitive way. of just
Yeah.
do a bunch of burgling, and it might still be okay there, but it's going to be a lot slower. And also, the deck that is a rogue will start as a rogue. You will know it's a rogue right away. You can mulligan again. We're back to some semblance of normalcy there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to stay in Thief Rogue, right? Because we've seen Null and Maestra enabling a whole, like, over the last year, right? Like Weapon Rogue that got enabled by Null and Maestra, right? So like, if you're playing Null, you're playing it in a deck where you're running things like Jackpot and Reconnaissance and Contraband Station. By the way, please don't. But if you do, at least like that's the place where it's going to be, and it makes sense. And it's not. It was both that deck was too strong because of that interaction, and also because it was enabling just the Sinstone Graveyard deck, because it's just another 0 mana minion that you can play, and that's been the pattern for in various forms for like almost 2 full expansions now. Pretty
Yeah,
much
and
since right before they buffed Edwin.
I think people might be surprised as well who do maybe go back to some Thief Rogue, that this can still get discounted pretty quickly over there, right? If you play a Jackpot, that's 2 discounts, and then follow it up with, Reconnaissance. Like, you can still discount it relatively quickly. You're just no longer getting the, turn 2, turn 3 nulls. And I think it can still be a pretty effective comeback tool in that way. But yeah, it's weird. Like, you don't get the benefit of Maestra anymore, but you can feel better about like starting to play your rogue cards sooner.
Yeah, I forget who it was who said that I just want Concoctor on 1 to be a correct play,
Yeah.
Donkey.
right? Because oh yeah,
Definitely Donkey.
'Cause-
Hey. And
yeah,
yes.
because like which makes sense, right? Like, you should be like, that's what you should be doing. You should be playing that on 1, getting the concoction, getting it going, and like, it was just incorrect to play cards on 1 because you weren't discounting your null. So.
Yeah.
And also because you wanted to save it for Sinstone Graveyard, which also got nerfed. The ghosts just don't have stealth anymore. Everything else the same, but the ghosts don't have stealth anymore. Still fine, by the way. But you can at least kill the things that come out of it. The dev comment, we recognize that Rogue has been a little too good for a little too long at higher ranks. The change to the Maestra Null interaction is a major change to the class intended to substantially shake up how it looks and plays, while the Sinstone Graveyard change gives opponents more of a chance to respond to the big Rogue pop-off turns. I will note here, there is no refund to Maestra at this time. I don't know if that's the sort of thing that we can anticipate changing. I probably wouldn't, but I do think that there is some merit to the points of I only crafted this to play it with Null. However, it did come out the expansion before, and it still works the way it did in the expansion it came out in, and you can still double agent with it if you really want to. But the main reason that people made this legendary, it no longer is there, but at this time the refund is not being provided to it. We can call this the Zentimo problem, where, for those of you that weren't playing back then, it was a card crafted for a deck that then got deleted, and it was indirectly nerfed, if not directly nerfed. And this, I think, is even actually more direct. It is a change to how Maestro decks are built and played. So, I wasn't expecting a Maestro refund, but I think there is merit to the concerns that there isn't one.
I think also because a lot of people crafted it in Golden specifically, because originally when this interaction first came out, if you needed it was changing your hero power to Golden only if you had the Golden Maestra. So it was a tell that you were actually a rogue if you had a non-Golden hero power at high ranks. Now, I mean, we got to the point where A, they fixed the bug, and B, you just assumed everyone you were playing on ladder was a rogue. But that, I think that also, that could go in either side of the argument, right? Either, it's going to be a lot more dust, or, there's going to be a lot more outlay that people put into that card. But I mean, they got their money's worth out of it for the last, year, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, they could dust. They
It's
could just dust the golden one and get as much dust back as the non-golden one. That's kind of a scuffed way to go about it, I suppose.
I didn't expect a refund, but I also, if I were on the balanced team or the community team, I would have expected this question.
Yeah.
All right. They also nerfed some Demon Hunter cards. Final Showdown. Used to be draw 4 cards in a turn for the first phase. Now it's draw 6. Whew.
Whew.
Yeah, this card's dead. And then Sinful Brand moved from 1 mana to 2 mana. Demon Hunter is the other best performing class at high levels of play, so these changes are intended to adjust its power. Sinful Brand was chosen as a card to target because it punishes opponents for simply playing the game, a play pattern we don't like being too powerful or prevalent. Good. And then Final Showdown, as a longtime Brute enjoyer and a player that has played this on 1 enough times, I do own this in Golden. I didn't expect this kind of evisceration, but there is a significant risk, a weird risk, that if you only changed it by 1 card, it might get better because you get an extra discount.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
seeing somebody saying, like, in Wild, this might be a buff because if you glide with this up, then you get,
Yeah.
you get even more discounts potentially. So
I would, I doubt that it's objectively a buff. I can see circumstances where it might actually play differently or better. But calling it a buff, I think, is probably not quite right because it's so much harder
the
to
tongue
get
may
that
have
first.
been planted firmly in cheek with that
Yes.
statement. It's hard to say on the internet sometimes, but
But
yeah,
it was
this is a big, like, this is like your charge minions have +1 attack, kind of a change to this card.
this is now start of game, gain 1600 dust 1 time because you're not gonna play this again. They made it really clear for anyone that's on the fence, like, no, go get your dust now. Just go now. You'll get more value out of the dust because this is just the games where you would top deck Need for Greed on 3. That is now 2/3 of the way there, where it used to be the high roll. Now it's like, all right, now 2 more cards. It's just not realistic. It's not going to happen often enough that this will see any play. Like, this is. I hope they revert it because this card is bad.
It seems like the kind of change that they will revert when it goes back to Wild.
Yeah.
Which is only going to be in a couple months. Because, I mean, this is like, it was a legitimate deck to, brute people in Wild. And it seems like a temporary change just until it gets out of standard.
I hope so. All right, Shock Spitter. 3 mana 2/2 to 4 mana 3/3. Comment: Hunter is the top class at most parts of Ladder. When we changed Spitter to 3 in patch 25.0.3, we expected that it would remain powerful after that change, and debated whether we should just change it to 4 at that time. We decided that we didn't want to hit Hunter too hard all at once. Now that we've seen how the card performs at 3 mana, we think it can use another nudge, especially with the other top performers being adjusted down around it. I have already played against Spitter Hunter today. Deck is fine. Like,
It seems like
totally
it'll be
fine. Yep.
I mean, you still have the rusher to discount a beast, right? So that
Battle
that's
ram,
a little more important to reduce it if you want to be able to brand 2 of them in a single turn. But it's kind of nice that they must do that to brand 2 of them in a single turn. I had anticipated a starts at 0 damage. I guess they felt that was too weird, but yeah, I don't mind it. They raised the stats up. Honestly, 4 mana 3/3 stat wise, like, still not great, but feels better than 3 mana 2/2 somehow.
Well, remember, Devouring Swarm is a big part of this card, and this makes it worse with Devouring
That's
Swarm.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I mean, at the time, you're also playing it a turn later, so the things you're going to be swarming it into might be bigger by that point, too.
What has definitely felt great is, I mentioned I played a few games of Blood Decay. Much more time to get in Theo or Patchwork or something to deal with that.
Yeah.
Or even just
And-
to get enough life to be able to
Or
range.
Plague Spreader. You get a lot more Plague Spreader.
you
from that.
stop it. You stop it right now. And, like, Spitter Hunter in particular, this deck is not just pure Spitter all the time. You have Spitter games, but This is just you nerf the mana when you want to slow down the crazy damage from hand combo, which is the thing they need to slow down when they're slowing everything else down too. You can't just leave this. And that deck wins a lot with Ram into Hydra on 5 a lot, or just Wild Seeds and Pressure and play one Shock Spitter at the end of the game. There's still going to be some double Shock Spitter games, but everything is just a little bit slower. And if you're slowing the format down, you need to slow the format down. So I envision that some kind of Hunter with Shock Spitters in it will still be fine, because playing this is better than not most of the time. There will still be some Beast Hunters. There will absolutely be people still just winning with King Crush instead, and it'll probably be more than good enough as well. I don't know if it'll have Renathal or not, but I imagine that strategy will remain fine just because all the tools are there. Wild Seeds solve a lot of problems. Wild Seeds do a lot.
According to HS Replay, it was one of the best decks in the format at not top 1000 Legend for like the last couple days.
I imagine it'll be pretty good. All right. Glacial Advance, the one that people didn't see coming as much.
Oh,
but
I kind of felt like
This
I'm
is
not
the
going to
thing
say
around Foreigner's
Unjustified.
Nerf. Yeah.
I'm not saying Unjustified. That's not what I said. Speaking as a person that has advanced glacially many times, I am glad that they toned this down, because this deck has a lot of elements that are very easy to see being frustrating if they become the most prevalent thing in the meta. And they didn't nerf the damage. They nerfed the reduction from 2 less to 1 less. Deal 4 damage, your next spell this turn costs 1 less. Frost DK is performing well right now, so want to slightly shave some of its power to make sure it stays in line with the rest of the meta after the other changes this patch. This adjustment takes away a little bit of the deck's explosive burst from hand capabilities. I have a screenshot on Twitter out there of 8 Glacial Advances, and just killing someone with that. I think it's okay to make that not all playable in one turn. I think that's okay.
Yeah, this was
a
very
Glacial Go ahead.
This was very frequently the culprit when someone died extremely early. It was Death Whisper into just a ton of Glacial Advances, particularly if you got one discounted off of Nerubian and then
or the
got
weapon,
that copied.
You're running the weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a card with Glacial in the name should be slower than it is, I think. But yeah, I think if you don't touch this, this is the best. This is easily the best deck, just because of what everything else taking a step back, and Frost DK was not really around as much, but also you have to keep in mind that you have a lot of decks like Blood DK and even Svalna Priest to a lesser extent that were trying to mitigate damage from things like Shock Spitter Hunter, and so that was also kind of keeping Frost DK down as collateral damage. So if you don't have people targeting those decks as much, then Frost DK just gets that much better. So it'll kind of, this is probably a net neutral at the end of the day.
I mean, the card is worse, but the entire purpose of this patch is to get rid of What the Hell, How Did I Die? And this is a What the Hell, How Did I Die? And if you use the discount, it's still 2 mana deal 4. That's a good deal. We take those. So it's still 2 mana deal 4. You got to pay up front, but then you get the rebate. I am glad that there won't be any more coin Death Whisper into I'm dead on 6 games. Like, I'm just glad that those are going to come down.
I am surprised that they left the damage at 4. Like 3, I mean, it feels a little bit above rate, for given the other burn spells in the format, but maybe that's just what they want Frost DK to do, and it's fine.
I mean, compare this to Eviscerate. If you're not playing another
but that's not in the
spell-
format. I guess you compare it to Wicked Stab, right? Because that's yeah.
It's I think if you compare it to Eviscerate, isn't something that would be too good for Standard. It is something we got bored of, but I don't think it's too good for Standard. And Wicked Stab is like, that card is in and out of lists. It's probably just around the right power level, and I think this is on par with that, where this is like combo cost 1 less, as opposed to combo deal 2 more sort of thing. So, all right. Astalor. Nobody saw this coming. They changed all 3 phases. So, phase 1, Mana Thirst 4 to Mana Thirst 5, so it'll deal 2 damage if you have 5 mana. Second phase, Mana Thirst 7 to Mana Thirst 8, it'll gain armor if you have 8 mana. Third phase, 2 changes. Well, I guess 1 change extrapolated. Instead of dealing 8, it deals 7, and the Mana Thirst is 14 instead of 16. You still double it, but it's 14 instead of 16. Comment: players seem to really enjoy the power and flexibility of Astalor. At the same time, the power and flexibility has made Astalor a near auto-include in almost every deck in the meta. These changes are designed to bring Astalor's power more in line with what we want from a neutral, general-purpose utility card like this. We still hope and expect that Astalor remains a powerful option for many decks so that players can continue to enjoy this card.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I anticipated the first 2 Mana Thirst changes, but I thought it might even be alongside a regular mana increase. They'd go like 3-6. And then I thought the last phase maybe would have no text change, but the mana cost would go to 9 or something.
They want people to have this card and play with it. Like, they really, really clearly want that. And they're nerfing around the popularity. Denathrius didn't get deleted a week into Nathria or 6 weeks into Nathria either. And this is probably on par with that in terms of popularity. No matter what people may say or may have said at that time about how Denathrius is whatever, people still played it a ton. And they're going to play this a ton too. I do think in aggressive decks, it becomes a different conversation about do you include this card or not. The most common thing I did in aggressive decks was play this on 7, 2, and 5, and then play the big one on 8. It's still okay. You still deal the 7. You missed the 5 armor. But the armor mattered a lot. Like, it was a big, big deal. And Astalor moving from something you play on turn 4 to turn 5 as well. If I'm expecting the game to be compressed, I'm not sure he's worth it anymore. He probably still is. It's still only 1 card slot. It's still pretty strong. These are softer nerfs, but it is at least a consideration.
I was trying some Undead Priest with this still in the list because you run double Void Touch Attendant.
Yes.
Right. So the pings do a lot of damage if you need it to. And it was noticeable because, like, especially in a deck where you're tossing a bunch of cards onto the board all at once, and then you sometimes have to wait for refill. Having to choose between, am I just going to play a 2-mana 2/2 on 4, or am I going to hold it and just hero power and then get the 2 damage on 5? Because that's generally the around the time that you need that 2 damage to, like, clear out a small taunt, or you want to push a little bit extra face damage, and having to wait that extra turn actually felt pretty awkward, all things considered.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much I guess the damage on the 8 mainly matters for things like Druid and Rogue, where you're playing multiples of it. I don't know how much that pushes down Ramp Druid. I figured they'd still play it. I don't know if that really affects. I mean, the people who are going to play Ramp Druid are going to play Ramp Druid. Like, that's nothing's gonna defer them from wanting to play Wild Growth on 3. Like, that's just gonna happen. But I don't know if that really makes that much of a difference in terms of, like, what Druid's trying to do. But Druid's not really the problem. It's more like when we were seeing Denathrius in, like, non-curse Imp Warlock, right? And that was kind of the thing that was saying, okay, maybe this is a little bit too powerful because this doesn't seem like the kind of deck that this should be in. And if it's in this kind of deck too, maybe it's a little bit too powerful.
I mean, Astalor was in Enrage Warrior. Like, come on.
Right. Well, sure, it would damage one of your minions. It makes perfect sense.
The, like, main thing I see here that makes sense of why they would start with this, and then, if it continues to be a problem, they'll do more, is it creates multiple points of just a little more awkward. So you can no longer get that 2 damage if you want to play the 5 drop on curve. Previously, you could, as you were saying, remove something small on 4, and then if you just want a body on 5, you could just play the body on 5. You can't do the on 7, play the first and second stage and still get the armor, which I think was very common. And for the last stage, just doubling or playing 2 of this effect no longer is lethal in and of itself if your opponent has nothing in play. So previously,
Right, it's
you know,
28 instead of 32. Yeah.
right, exactly. So it's like it cannot be the only source. It still, you know, pretty much gets you there, but it doesn't. It's not just that.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to deal with the board after it, but at least like you get to live through the initial barrage.
And like for the case of Druid, right, who gets this effect 4 times, so it's 8 less total damage. They're probably still gonna kill you with 56, but at least it's a little worse. And the deck already, I think, was not generally performing incredibly well. So it's just a little bit easier to get enough stats in play that you won't die to it.
I don't know if this is going to be a major adjustment to the calculus of who actually runs the card outside of the most aggressive strategies. Frosty K, I'm a little less sure about it now. In Rage War, I'm a little less sure about it, but a lot of decks are going to keep running it. And that is the intention. So, this is not a deletion. If you own him in Golden, probably keep him. Probably keep him. Alright. We also have buffs. We have buffs. Battlefield Necromancer. I'm going to have to read all these buffs, because these are not cards that saw a lot of play. 2 mana, 2/3 Death Knight card at the end of your turn. Raise a corpse is a 1/3 Risen Footman with Taunt. That used to be a 1/2. Bone Guard Commander. That's the Blood DK 8 mana, 8/8 Singaroon with Taunt. That, as a battle card, would raise up to 6 corpses as a 1/3 Risen Footman with Taunt. Used to be a 1/2. It's the same token. They just made it bigger token, and the 2 cards that reference that token, they get 1/3s instead of 1/2s. And then Unholy Frenzy. Unholy card, obviously. 2 mana spell. Choose an enemy minion. Your minions attack it. Resummon any that die. I have heard this is quite good in even DK in Wild. The comment: Blood and Unholy Death Knight are both still underperforming in Standard. Death Knight is difficult to balance because individual cards within the class tend to be very strong, but we found a couple spots where we felt we could add a little bit of power to individual cards to make them more appealing. I'm not quite sure what this means.
Yeah, I was anticipating something more like the, summon 2 1/1 reborns going from 3 to 2. I sort of expected that more than Unholy Frenzy. Battlefield Necromancer was already good and now is better. And then Bone Guard Commander, I don't know what the deck is, right? It's pretty unclear to me, right?
You know exactly
it makes
what
a
the
big
deck
board, but
It's Reno Death Knight. That's
no,
Reno Blood Death Knight.
like why? I don't know. It's
I
better.
mean, if they're 1/3s instead of 1/2s, they die to a lot less things, right? It actually takes a little bit more.
That's true, but it's
more work to get through them. Like Cariel's not going to wipe out your board, right? Like that is a fairly sick. Like going from 2 to 3 is like going from 4 to 5. It's a pretty significant break point. I mean, at least in terms of the kinds of things that you can do to contest it. I mean, it ain't mana, less so, but still.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm thinking. Is like once you're at 8 mana, anyway. Like I picture this in something that cares about having boards, but as soon as you go from triple unholy to double unholy 1 blood, you lose access to grave strength. So until there's maybe like a double unholy board buff, I'm not as interested in this card. Because for me, triple blood, my 8s are just the soul stealers, the clears.
Yeah, and you can't blood tap the guys that pop out of the 8/8 either.
Correct. Yeah. And again, it's 6 hours in. Might be that the void of Demon Hunter or 13/13s with Stealth on turn 4 might make Blood good enough. And I will tell you, when I was watching Kibler's stream yesterday, he was trying out off-meta stuff as he does, and I feel like every single game he played was a Blood DK or a Quest Priest. And he was playing a Token Demon Hunter, and let me tell you, you don't want to play Token Demon Hunter into either of those matchups. Well, there are good cards in DK. I just want to find as many ways possible to play No Muncher. That card is ridiculous.
Yep.
Like, it's good and wild. Anyways, where was I? Okay. Wither. Druid spell. 2 mana to. It used to be 2 mana, now it's 1 mana. Choose a minion. Each friendly undead steals 1 attack and health from it. This is the only druid buff. Okay. We've got some priest buffs. Bone Collar. This is the 4 mana. Used to be a 2/4, now it's a 2/5. It's a priest taunt. Death Rattle. Resurrect a friendly undead that died this game. I have to explain this today. I won't in the near future. This card's great now.
Yeah, this is really good. This is and it's good in both the like the more aggressive shadow list and also in the control list, because it's actually like because you play this after Plague Spreader. I know I said it again. I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
But no, I'm not. But it actually, like, again, going from 4 to 5 is a big break point, and like playing Bone Collar because you're playing it after turn 4 in the control decks. It felt terrible. It's just like a speed bump, but 2/5 is actually like a legitimate defensive tool.
And we also have more priest buffs. They're all really like undead focused, but undead could be any number of things. Haunting Nightmare used to be a 3 mana 3/3. Death Rattle. Haunt a card in your hand. When you play it, summon a 3/3 soldier. Now both the Nightmare and the soldier are 4/3s. They're bigger. Keep in mind, this does not have to haunt a minion. It can haunt anything in your hand. So I always forget that.
And you're often playing this with Undying Allies. Like, this is one of the things you're trying to hit with Undying Allies, like this and Shadowed Spirit. So,
Yes.
these are often going to come back a few times. And then also when you hit it with Undying Allies, now you're getting 2 4/3s instead of 2 3/3s that are coming off the cards. It's a lot more than just like one number. It's one number times up to 4, and sometimes even more than that.
And then also a very spicy nerf here. High Cultist Basilief. It's Priest Legendary. 4 mana 3/5. Used to be 5 mana. 4 mana 3/5. Battlecry. Resurrect all friendly undead that died after your last turn. I had 4 Scourge Ragers in play today. It was a good time. Yeah. I kind of can't believe this card costs 4 now. This is a good card now. Like,
yeah, it was already fine, but it was a little bit awkward. But also, like, the things that you want to come back cost 3, right? Like the thing you want to play this right after the 3 drops. You want to trade off a Shadowed Spirit or a Haunting Nightmare or a Scourge Rager, and then immediately play this and get them back again. So like, it was always kind of awkward having to try to protect them for the turn until you could get this to go off, and now you don't have to. You don't have to choose.
Yeah, it's a really good card. And then we've got a couple of Warlock buffs. Darkhan Drathyr. It's now a 7 mana 6/6 legendary for Warlock. Lifesteal. At the end of your turn, deal 6 damage to the enemy hero. It's an undead. Used to cost 8. An Infantry Reanimator. 5 mana 4/4. Battlecry. Resurrect a friendly undead and give it Reborn. It used to cost 6. The explanation for all of these is grouped together. Most undead aggro decks have been underperforming compared to what we were expecting. Our changes here to encourage exploration of those archetypes. We discussed potential changes to undead neutral cards, but opted to target the class cards this patch instead. I'm surprised that Drathyr and Reanimator qualify as aggro, but I'm not going to get into that semantic wormhole now. But, I mean, this is... The priest cards I feel like are going to meaningfully impact some deck. Like, that's enough stuff here. I played a bunch of priest today. It feels better. Wither is so weird, just seeing it on its own with no other changes other than Null getting nerfed, which is a big deal. But
and Wither may not be for right now, right? Like, Wither, even now, I don't even know that you're going to play that until maybe after rotation, just because, like, you're losing a lot I mean, not that aggro druids really rip it up the meta, but like the aggro druids that I'm seeing are just kind of doing the same things that they were doing before this expansion came out, and you kind of lose some power by going all in on undead. So it might be after some of those cards rotate, like Squirrel and some of those other, and Trog, like you're taking out things like Trog and Squirrel, and you're putting in, I don't know, like Arms Dealer and Banshee, and like that's a downgrade in general. Like, you get to play Wither, but it doesn't make up for like the power you're losing in like some of the cards you'd have to take out.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're are a couple more undead to be used out of the mini set. Maybe
Yeah.
like, one that's a druid specific and one or two out of neutral that play into the aggro theme. And cutting mana in half, like going from 2 to 1, is a really, really big deal. So, yeah, I mean, it could totally just be a solid removal tool, particularly for getting rid of taunts or something.
Yeah. I mean, Shadow Word Devour is a good card, right? This is kind of like reverse Shadow Word Devour. So it'll probably see it, if you think about it that way, right?
It is funny though, because we saw the nerf to Sinful Brand. Now this is different, but Wither is similarly a card that will punish you for playing a minion if you play a 3/5 taunt or something, and I don't know, maybe that's a bad example, but opponent plays a mid-sized minion, let's say a 3/3, and you've got 3 undead on board. You now get to buff all your things 1 attack and 1 health. Like, it's this weird thing that because they played a minion, you get to steal from it and do a board-wide buff. Now, generally things that do just +1 attack aren't immediately kill you, so it's not saying it's the same as Sinful Brand, but there could definitely be some situations where someone plays a taunt for that bit of extra defense and then gets punished.
Yeah, I think the difference is that Wither's asking you to do a lot more in the deck building stage to get it to work than Sinful Brand was asking you to play Faldorei Warband. That was it. That's all you needed to do. And until that card came out, nobody played it. And then that card came out and everybody played it, right? I mean, yeah, it asks you not to put minions in your deck, but that's not really asking all that much. This is asking you to build an aggro deck with almost exclusively undeads if you want to get the value out of it. And that's right now is a harder ask.
Yeah, it's 1 mana. I'm at least like starting to think about it.
Sure.
I guess off Planted Evidence it would have been 0 anyways, but also you would never take it because you'd never be playing undead. I don't know. I wonder how many of these changes are breadcrumbs, where it's not that the deck is getting substantially better, it's that they want us to try it again because Nola's gone and Demon Hunter is worse. And so, hey, we want you to explore this. So here, we'll even throw in a mana discount on Wither. Go try it out. As opposed to saying the thing that was holding back Undead Aggro Druid was the mana cost on Wither. I don't think that's the message being sent here. I think it's more like, hey, go see what's up. All right, and then the last section,
because I was playing duels like a little bit this week, and there's like an Elise like priest druid undead aggro deck, and it had Wither in it, and once you get a couple of like non-undeads just thrown into your deck in duels, it always felt really underwhelming. I mean, I maybe at 1 mana it would feel a little bit better, but you have to really like go all in on undead in order to get it to work.
Yeah. In addition, Vengeful Walloper, Demon Hunter Outcast payoff card. It's now a 6 mana 5/5 demon with rush, costs 1 less for each outcast card you've played this game, used to cost 7. Couple Casino Mage cards, Energy Shaper, which was a 4 mana 3/5 that said Battlecry, transform all spells in your hand into ones that cost 2 more, like a Deck of Lunacy, a little Deck of Lunacy for your hand. It moved from a 4 mana 3/5 to a 3 mana 3/4, which is substantially better. And Vast Wisdom. It used to be a 3 mana mage spell, discover 2 spells that cost 3 or less and swap their cost. Now it costs 2. This card is crazy good. But bizarrely, it's not gonna see any play in the mage decks right now because the format is limited by Frostweave Dungeoneer and Belinda Stonehearth, which is a very strange sentence to say. But it doesn't have a frost tag and it isn't big, so you probably can't play it right now. But any mage deck that isn't doing spell tutoring, you want this. You want this card.
I mean, does it? Here's copium for you. Does it make Naga Mage maybe playable again?
Don't give me hope. Don't give me hope. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna go do that tonight, and I'm gonna be upset that I allowed you to make me think this would work.
Sorry, not sorry.
There's a kind of funny situation too where you play Vast Wisdom onto get 2 spells that you don't really care about. You just take ones that cost 3, and then you play Energy Shaper on 3, and I've got a pair of 5 costs. I don't know if you really go in on the casino stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's Kibler was doing that today. Like, Fast Wisdom in a Shaper is a thing. Like, you can do that, and it's good. Yeah, I don't think this will be the best way to play Mage. I hope it's not a tier 1 deck.
Good.
But I do expect it to be something that we see, and I expect it to win some games. I wouldn't be surprised if it was tier 2-ish. I think that's okay.
But
we'll see how that opinion changes over time. But I think it's okay for now.
It's been interesting to see how there's kind of this convergence from these balance changes and to some extent from some previous ones on, okay, 3 mana 3/4 or 3 mana 4/3 is like a solid baseline for cards, right? Somehow being a 4 mana 3/5 just has not worked out for things. One that didn't work that I think of is like the Medic, where whenever you play a holy spell, you get a 2/2 lifesteal. And I was like, oh, you do that with Holy Maki Roll, it's great. But like being 4 mana 3/5 just has not been a good stat line.
Yeah,
not for
4/5 has
years.
Never really been good. Yeah.
Fandral Staghelm was a good card. But that was a long time
Long
ago.
time ago.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to look this up while you two were talking about the next cards. Time Warden, Paladin card. It's a dragon. Used to be a 4 mana 3/5. Now it's a 3 mana 3/4. Where it's Paladin Epic. Battlecry, until the end of your next turn, dragons you summon gain Taunt and Divine Shields. I feel like this card was already decent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, before it was, you would play this into the 5 mana 3/6 Battlecry, summon 2 Whelps if you have a dragon in hand. And, that would be pretty solid. Or you would play it into Amber Watcher, and your Amber Watcher would restore 8 and have Taunt Divine Shields. So it was just this ultra anti-aggro situation. Now you can play this into the 4 mana 4/4 Rush that gets +1/+1 if you have a dragon in hand.
Daring
so,
Dream, yeah.
Get turn 3 into turn 4 5/5 Rush Divine Shield Taunt is pretty solid. And, you could still play off curve to do the other things. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's the only, unless you're playing Twilight Drake, which I guess you could. That's not terrible to get a, 4 whatever with Divine Shield and Taunt. That's not the worst thing in the world, actually.
Is Twilight Drake still in Standard?
Yes.
think.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at the site right now. It is.
Well, all right.
Yeah. So that's the only other 4 cost dragon that Paladin has access to. But that's not bad, actually. Especially if you're doing things, you're cycling with Bannerman, you're drawing and with the 1 drop, and like most of the cards that Paladin plays in the early game like replace themselves in their hand. So you should have a decent sized hand by the time that you go to play Twilight Drake. Might not be a bad idea.
Are you gonna Kazaka-san? You are, aren't you?
I will neither confirm nor deny.
I saw your face. You don't have to admit it, but you already have. Speaking of which, by the way, 4 mana 3/5s printed in recent memory that were kind of okay. I do agree with your general statement. They probably aren't great. But Commander Sivera, more played for the effect, but she's fine. Dragonbane was very good. Was very, very good.
Yes.
Though that was more 6 mana 3/5 deal 5. Escape Mana Saber was pretty solid. Igneous Lava Gorger. Kane Sun Fury got nerfed, but had charge.
Yes.
Reckless Apprentice. Reckless Apprentice is all right.
Yeah.
That's mostly.
That's also not usually a 4-drop unless you're playing against like Imp Warlock.
I think
of...
it's like they need to do something right now for it to work out.
Yeah, but that's also most cards in Modern Hearthstone. But yes, you are correct that I think overall this stat line is not enough for a utility minion unless there is some immediate payoff. That seems fair to say. All right. Where was I? Oh, yes. The warrior section. There's a lot here. Strap in. So, we're an hour into the show and like our 20% of the news. Oh, my goodness. Azvedon, the Grand Shield. Used to be a 3-mana 3/3, now is a 3-mana 3/4 taunt. The added taunt that's very important, don't forget it. It's a warrior legendary battlecry, cast a copy of the last spell your opponent played. Disruptive Spellbreaker, 5 mana, warrior minion, was a 4/5, now it's 4/6. At the end of your turn, your opponent discards a spell. Last Stand, this is a rework. It used to be 4 mana warrior spell where you drew a taunt minion and doubled its stats. Now it is a 1 mana warrior spell. You draw a taunt minion, and Mana Thirst double its stats. Mana Thirst 7. So, this is, I will not call this a nerf or a buff. I think we'll see more play contextually, but you do lose out on curving into like Morshan Elite or something. That's gone.
I was convinced that the change was going to be setting it to 3 so that you could, turn 3, play Last Stand, and then turn 4, play the 4 mana 5
Injured Marauder.
10. Yeah. 4 mana 5/10 battle cry, it deals 6 to itself, so you could have a 10/14 on 4. Like I was ready to do that.
They nerfed
and
Ice
they threw a
Revenant, and
curveball.
you think they would just like, hey warrior, go have a 4 mana 10/14. That'll make the game better.
Warrior needs
fine.
a lot of help, Pat. So
Who does that help? That doesn't help anybody.
it helps Enzo.
Okay. I understand, but I don't think even the most dedicated warrior main like Enzo would want to win that way. It's like,
I would want to. I do. I want to win that way.
okay, I don't want you to have what you want. But either way, I think like this is interesting because Silver Fury Stalwart costs 6. That's a 6 mana 4/8 taunt rush. Can't be targeted. Like that being an 8/16 on turn 7 is pretty cool. Finding an Azvedon pretty cool. I played this with Igneous Lava Gorger. Also great with Nelly, who also got buffed. Her pirates now cost 2 less instead of 1 less. It is not a reversion. And again, reverting Nelly, even though would put like a reverted Nelly would be on par with the pre-nerf format, it would firmly illustrate the difference between balance and health. That the warrior deck would start winning as much as other decks, but it would do so by flipping coins to become charge warrior, and that's not good for anybody. So we don't want to see that. So instead, the pirates cost 2 less, and Remornia went from a 4/10 to a 5/10. This I hope there's a way for this card to be good because this card is sweet. All right.
Yeah.
Dev comment.
I saw Funky playing that in a deck with Lorthamar Theron. So that's a thing.
I believe that he did that. So
I guess
Dev
I should say
comment.
that's a thing. Funky's trying to make it a thing. We'll say that.
Yeah. The comment, Warrior seems to be the class that needs the most help in the current meta, so we're giving them the most buffs. With Last Stand, we wanted to feel more impactful and flexible, and we have a great new mechanic in Mana Thirst that gives us that kind of flexibility. This isn't the type of change that we normally do, but this is a good opportunity for us to make the card a little fresher and more interesting. We're also making a few changes to some older and exciting cards to provide the class the boost that it needs. Now, when's the last time they changed a card like Last Stand? Like, is there ever been a time they've really,
Lucia?
like... Well, no, that was an evisceration. I'm trying to think of times where they tried to side grade a card. The only example I can think of is
when
Twin
they were
Slice.
messing around with like charge.
The card charge.
Like
Maybe.
remember when the card charge when they changed it to make it say rush, but it was still called charge.
That's a
like-
long time ago.
Yeah. Because like it's pretty rare that they like when they're buffing, or I guess not buffing, but actually like rework a card. I mean, it's even when they're nerfing, it's rare to rework a card, which is why I went to Elucia, because Elucia was it changed the way that the card worked. It ended up being a nerf, but it changed the way that the card worked functionally, which is like what this is also
Yeah.
doing.
Oh, Crab Rider. Crab Rider did this.
Yeah, Crab Rider is there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Although again, very much a nerf. So I think this is the first time we've seen it in a buff capacity to totally rework a card like this.
Because they normally don't like changing the text box. They don't like changing the words on the card. They usually prefer to change the numbers on the card because that's a little bit easier to understand when you're just flipping through. It's a little bit it pops a little bit more. This is actually changing the text box, which is significant. Though I guess they just did that with Null too, so maybe they're getting a little bit more comfortable with that.
I think this is an interesting avenue for them to pursue for changes. So I like the idea there, because Last Stand, what set did Last Stand come out in?
It just came out.
It's Lich King because it's got Mana Thirst.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But it didn't have Mana Thirst before, so I think it's interesting they just added the mechanic to it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
don't think they would have considered it if it hadn't been from Lich King. I don't think they would have considered giving it Mana Thirst, because that would just be like a little weird.
I wonder. Anyways. So, listeners, go ahead.
I'd like to say I made some predictions on these once we knew the cards, but not exactly the changes. And I thought that I went about 500. I think I went just under. I got 12 out of the 25 correct. A couple I really thought differently. I think Last Stand, I was super surprised. Remornia, I thought was going to go to 6. And
I mean, if you predicted Last Stand, I would just give you a medal right now.
Yeah.
Bone Guard Commander, in retrospect, since I did predict the Necromancer, I probably should have also figured that would be the change to Bone Guard Commander. But I mean, a lot of them were kind of gimmies in terms of the mana cost reductions.
They just
But
didn't have that many knobs. Like, what are you going to do to Wither? What are you going to do to it? The only thing that you have available is make it cost a 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, certain ones I thought would be mana costs that ended up being stats changes. I was perhaps a little too optimistic on Haunting Nightmare. That one I suggested something that was a little more what I wanted than what I expected.
You wanted to go infinite, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Why are you being so nice to me? Like, why is that happening?
It would just be really cool.
The first
anyway.
time,
Haunting.
sure.
Friends, we've got 5 more bullet points.
Okay.
So, BG's players, listen. There's a lot here. I've played some BGs before this patch. I enjoyed myself, and Undead was too good. They changed a lot of things. Undead got worse, not substantially worse. I will briefly breeze through these, but we just don't have the capacity in the show or the engagement with BGs to give these a really good assessment contextually. I'll just call it a couple key ones, like the Eternal Knights, moving from 4-1 to 3-1. Ghoul of the Feast, which was the tier 3 minion that avenge 1, give a friendly minion of each type +3 attack. They moved that to +2. That card was crazy. There were a bunch of buffs. I'm very excited to play Elementals because Master of Realities moved to tier 4, and I love playing Master of Realities. They did some side grades here to Anubarak and Eternal Summoner in particular. Eternal Summoner is now a very big change. It used to be an 8-1 undead that summoned 2 Eternal Knights as a death rattle. Now it is a 6-1 reborn that summons 1 Knight. So it actually the base copy deals 12 instead of 8. And it only summons 1 Knight at a time, right? But it deals 6 and then 6 again. However, you cannot Soul Splitter it. And it's a lot trickier to weave into a board. So I think it's still like reasonably considered a slight downgrade, but overall not like a substantial one. But it does just change how the tribe is going to play a little bit.
Yeah. But the golden one still does summon 2.
Yeah.
So you have to golden it to get the 2.
Well, but it's reborn death rattle, right? So you get 1 the first time, 1
Yeah.
the second one.
But you used to get 2 even on the non-golden
it used to be
one. Now you have
used to be
now you
2
have
and
to gold-
4.
now you have to triple it in order to get the gold, in order to get 2 out of it.
No, the base copy gives you 2 just 1 at a time.
Well, it's the number on the card says 2.
Right. The number changed. But
Yes.
it didn't have reborn before, which is the big deal that Soul Splitter doesn't make this better now.
Oh,
And they
okay.
also nerfed the
I see what you're saying. Okay. So it's still
Yeah.
giving you 2, but it's giving you 1 at a time, and now it's going to give you 2 twice. When you
And the most important thing is you can't give this reborn anymore. So it doesn't scale exponentially with Lich King Hero or with Soul Splitter. So your late game doesn't go up that much. However, It is much better with Lady Death or Sister Death Whisper, because it says after a friendly minion is reborn, give your undead a permanent buff. This is another reborn minion. That's why they nerfed her too. They moved her from +1/+3 to +1/+2, and she's smaller now. So undead's still going to be pretty good. There are a lot of other changes. If I try and go into the impact of these, first I'm going to lie to you, and second I'm going to lose my mind. So I'm not going to try and do either of those things. I am looking forward to playing some BGs and also some standard, and there's not enough time in the day. In addition, they changed so many duels things. So many duels things. They banned To the Front. They updated 5 hero powers. They updated the Bitter Cold passive. They changed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 18, 21, 25 hero signature treasures. 25. I don't know. Steve, thoughts?
I wish, my thought is that I know that they're strapped for space and this would scroll forever, but like I would love it if they, at least for the ones that are getting buffed, that they put a picture of it on the patch notes, because like these hero powers, like Call of Madness, I could not tell you what that does, the priest hero power, because nobody picks it. You pick the one that does damage when you cast a spell, that's it, right? So like, you know, being able to like actually see if this is, I guess Frost Shards is the one that would do 1 damage and then give you the 2/1 in your hand. That's seems like a big deal to go to 1. There's so much here. I know the one that stood out to me was Glaciax, which is the Death Knight weapon. That's like a 5. That was like a 5/2, and then when it broke, it would give you a 2/5, and then when it broke, it would, I don't remember what, it would summon 4 zombies. That they took the power of those down. They took the power of the first half and the durability of the second half down, and they summoned fewer zombies, because that was a lot of damage. And you know, making that like a little bit less like a Mack truck feels like a good thing to do. But I mean, I've played some duels. I haven't played a ton of it, and like some of these are just like I have to go and see what they are in order to know what they're doing. But yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's really going to push you. I mean, for mage, it might push in that direction. I think a lot of the mage was basically secret mage, so maybe this is going to be like maybe a frost mage comes out of this. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how things change. But it's a pretty significant shakeup, all across the board.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that we got these patch notes just under 9 hours ago. The patch was in the game just under 8 hours ago. It's a Thursday afternoon. I'm surprised they even got notes of this size out in time, but they just decided, I guess, ship the notes instead of delaying the patch, which I'm grateful for. I would ask for that decision 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Scrolling this list, I'm completely lost. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to follow all the duels content I can. I'm going to listen to Oops All Duels and tune in and see what other people tell me matters. In addition to a few bug fixes, Manager's Apprentice is back to a 3-2. It is no longer a 2-3 for whatever reason. Manager Dawn Grasp and Wildheart Guff got their correct text fixes on their hero powers, and Hematology in duels had a bug where it could be used while you had no corpses, resulting in the mana being spent and nothing happening. So, okay. All right. We got through item 1.
Yep.
Are you all ready for
At
item 2?
least the tournament section will be quick.
There is no tournament section.
Exactly.
Steve is joking. I'm not going to do it.
It's not even an explanation section.
No.
It's
But-
new explanations today.
All right, let's talk about the Hearthstone Creator Program. Let's do this. So, the Hearthstone Creator Program. This is something that has been talked about for a while. Alkali has brought it up, and in the interest of full disclosure and journalistic integrity, I am interviewing Alkali on The Angry Chicken on Wednesday to talk about this. So, first of all, I'm going to ask her all the questions that everybody has. Second of all, it's a brand new program. We don't know everything yet. And third of all, please just, I don't plan on changing the way that I talk about this program because I'm going to talk to the person that made it in less than a week, but you should be aware that I'm going to be on that show and that it got the opportunity to talk to the administrator of the program directly. So, Hearthstone's fans and content creators are what make this game so special. So many passionate players make Hearthstone content every day. Even more fans are interested in getting into Hearthstone content creation and just don't know where to start. They want to know how they can get involved in things like special events and giveaways. We're happy to announce that we've launched a new creator program to help content creators grow and get more opportunity to share their love of the game. So basically, here are the questions that community managers get asked. 1, how do I get giveaway bundles? 2, how do I get the free stuff? 3, how do I find out when the patch is coming? 4, how do I find out what's in the patch? That's what this is for. This is what the creator program is about. So if you go over to the website, which I'll put up on the screen here. So there's an application here talking about passion for the game, consistency, community, the things that are offered. This website is too wide, so you're just going to see it cut off our face in the video. Direct communication, giveaway codes, special events, and influencer merch. These are the things that people have been asking for a while. And I think what we've heard from a lot of creators is, how do I qualify? Well, we found out, and I will say the reaction has not been universally positive just because these numbers are different than I think what people were expecting. The creator guidelines as laid out. And I will note, at the very top of this, it's important to have this caveat. Below are suggested minimums for application. We do consider special circumstances. Please apply if you think you would make a great addition to our creator program and if you do not meet all the recommendations. Streamers, I'm just going to read the bullet points as is. It's reading it out top to bottom. At least 60% of content needs to be Hearthstone related, at least 5,000 followers, or consistent uploads over the last 6 months with steady increased viewership, parentheses, community team review, at least 20 CCV, concurrent
200.
viewers?
Concurrent viewers.
200. At least 200 concurrent viewers if live streaming over 90 days. Consistent uploads over the last 6 months. For YouTube, basically the same thing. 60% of content needs to be Hearthstone related, at least 5,000 YouTube subscribers, or consistent uploads over the last 6 months with steady increased viewership. If live streaming, at least 200 concurrent viewers. Podcast, at least 70% of content needs to be Hearthstone related. Sorry, Squelch. Sorry, Blizzlet. Man, I love those shows so much. I hope they apply and they get it, but it was very funny to think about that today. Consistent uploads over the last 6 months, and an active social media presence on at least one platform. And then social influencer, at least 30% of content needs to be Hearthstone related. Consistent uploads over the last 6 months. I don't know what we're uploading. Must be able to provide platform insights over the last 90 days. Insights evaluated by the community team. So there's guidance here. And I think the goal overall is transparency, clear expectations and goals, and clear payoffs. However, the Hearthstone scene doesn't have a lot of up-and-comers that are also casually partnered streamers. Being a partnered streamer on Twitch is 75 consistent viewers.
Yeah.
However, Twitch is open-ended. Twitch, they can take as many people as they want to be partnered. There's no real limit there. They can do whatever. Whereas I don't anticipate the Hearthstone team just working with 1,000 people. I don't anticipate that happening here either. The point of having a program like this to figure out who's going to be a good ambassador for our brand, and then how can we make sure that they represent us, we represent them. It's very much the sort of thing where both parties are supposed to benefit.
Yeah. I think this is supposed to give people who are on the newer end of things a goal, right? Something that they can work towards and know definitively, okay, well, this is what I'm striving for, and I can feel confident in applying when I either hit these or get close to there. Or able to show growth for the last 6 months, I think does a lot of work there for a couple of them. That it's sort of like, hey, if you show that you've been putting in time and you're experiencing growth, well, then they can feel pretty confident that you'll experience more growth with their support, right? But yeah, as you say, certain things like the swag boxes that we've been fortunate enough to receive, if you give those to a Twitch partner number of people, right? Like that's extremely expensive.
Yeah,
I think
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I think they're willing to give those to more people by, opening applications for this, but not, an insane influx of just everyone who's creating any amount of content.
Well, yeah, and also like the direct information is kind of like the more people you let in, the more risk you have, right? Like because that program is also going to be, like one of the things that creators get is, advance notice that they can say make a YouTube video, right? With as an announcement goes live with, like if you think about like Regis doing duels changes or whatever, right? Like the more people that have access to that information, the more likely it's something's going to leak. So,
That's not just me, right? That's
Nope.
Steve started assessing the risk, and then Blizzard Police came for his internet.
Oh no.
Well, we're gonna sit here for a minute. Oh. Uh-oh is correct.
Rip.
Do you want to restart Discord? He's restarting Discord. All right. We're going to give this a minute. Hang out, everybody, if you can.
Oh,
I would
I'm
like
so
to
glad I
use
have
this-
off tomorrow so I can edit this.
I'm marking it. It's the Great Wall of China. You can see this from space. I'd also like to take this opportunity to say, Cat. I know that she's
She's been
there.
all up in here, and we need to clip her claws. It has been very painful.
Oh gosh, you haven't said anything, so good for you.
Yeah. Well.
back.
You're back. Yes.
Okay, we did it. Okay.
You've been recording the whole time, right?
Yeah. I didn't
Okay.
stop. I just killed Discord, but I didn't kill Audacity, so I
Okay.
didn't have to reboot.
So, why don't you start your point about information restriction again? Because that's where you were.
Yeah. So like if you have the more people that you have getting access to advanced information, like if you think about, the YouTubers who drop explainers about something that just got released in an announcement, they have to have information about that ahead of time before they can, and possibly assets so that they can record their videos, right? The more people who have access to that information, the more likely it's going to leak. So they do have to be restrictive. Now, I do think that I guess the way that I had seen this or envisioned it when it was first pitched is that there would be tiers of like, kind of like concentric circles. I'm thinking back to like the Meet the Parents circle of trust, but like maybe there's like, maybe you have like a low number of concurrent viewers and that qualifies you for giveaway codes, and then you have a higher number of viewers and that qualifies you for for something else, up to getting higher information, up to getting the physical merch, up to invites to theory crafting, whatever, right?
Sure.
And I think that you must be this tall to ride for people who are not already on the radar, right? Because like if you're already on the radar, you're probably going to apply anyway, even if you don't necessarily meet the strict guidelines, and you know they'll very likely consider you. But like even like there are a number of like high level streamers who are on the radar who don't, like 200 concurrent viewers is a ton. Like
That's difficult.
It's really difficult to do consistently. Like that's the kind of number you'll hit if you're getting rated by a big streamer. And I think the other concern is that it's a potential for like a rich get richer situation, because the way that you grow is by having access to some, not always, right? There are ways to do it without, but one way that you grow is by having access to these things, getting your video out on YouTube the day that the moment that the announcement launches, so that you have more time for your views, for your videos to get views, which gets you more subscribers, which brings you up and maybe holds other people back, right? So if you're already at that point, you know, obviously you still want to have that access, but you don't need it as much as somebody who may be trying to grow. But they also need to know that there's a trust element there, that they need to know that these people are invested and are going to be able to bring as much to the program as Blizzard is, because this is a two-way street to some extent. Not to some extent, that's the idea of it, right? Like this is a marketing activity. They're giving something and expecting to be getting promotion in return, and the promotion that you bring is only as big as your audience ultimately. Like I remember being early in podcasting and finding out like how many subscribers you needed to have to a podcast for advertisers to listen to you at all, and the number was, especially early on, was a lot higher than you would think.
Yeah, even in recent days, like I think if you're not hitting close to the 10,000 listener mark, then you're probably not getting advertiser sponsorships at all. And even then, like that is the start. And there might be tiers to this program that we don't know about because no one's in the program yet. But also, if this is the bottom tier, that's a pretty exclusive program. It's a pretty powerful program. And to your point, a lot of my growth on social media was due to giveaways, right? Like it's the initial visibility was strongly boosted by, you know, a couple opportunities that were provided to me that I'm very gracious for from Blizzard, along with some codes. It helps. It makes a big difference. And so if before it was just this was what we were doing anyways and we just didn't tell you, this is clearly better. But if before it was whoever the CM at the time wanted, and now it's follow these guidelines, I understand the improvements in transparency, but also it can be a little discouraging to see a number that's so far away from where people are, and to be such a big one. And if these guidelines are just guidelines and aren't going to be followed strictly anyway, and that they're going to make a lot of exceptions, we start to get away from the transparency. Now, I'm going to talk to Alkali next Wednesday. I'm going to ask her all these things, just to see where her head is at, what the plan is, what the goals are. Because I think in the grand scheme of things, this is meant to be a positive, inclusive thing. But right now, there's a lot of sticker shock. Right now, there's a lot of numbers, and I think that it's pretty clear that there needs to be some kind of consistency as to who gets included, and that's going to leave some people out by definition, because not everyone is going to be an equal partner in terms of how much publicity they provide the company while the company gives them stuff. It's not going to be everybody, right? And the 6 months over time, I think sustainability is really, really important, because they don't want someone that's going to give a ton of effort for 6 weeks, say, let me in, get in there, go crazy for a month, and then flame out and leave. That's not worth the energy on the Blizzard side. So I get the sustainability, but I also totally understand any small streamer that was waiting for this announcement to figure out what they do and then say, okay, I am 1% of the way there. That's gotta be pretty discouraging. It's also worth noting a couple asterisks here, and neither are great asterisks, so I'm just going to share them. First of all, this is limited to 68 countries right now. They are all in the Americas or Europe. I don't know why, but no Asian countries are on the list at all. Just not. This is just not available in those countries. So someone like my Twitter idol Ahiron from Japan, there is no program for him, which I think is kind of crazy. Now, there has to be some reason for it that is behind the scenes. I don't get it. But I think that it would have been nice to know if that was something that people could have known. But instead, it's just something that, Western countries get to participate in and nobody else does. So I think that's notable, right? That's a notable thing. Second of all, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to scroll a legal document here on stream, even though I know that would be compelling content for all of you, especially the audio listeners out there. But there are some people that have said some vague things about, I am not sure about the specific legal language here. So it's an agreement. Make sure you go through it before you sign it. I don't know exactly what's going on in there because I am super duper not a lawyer. And so I'm not going to try and give you any kind of legal guidance here. But there have been some people that have some trepidation about some of the clauses in there.
Yeah, I mean, including me, I was all set to, before we started the show, just go ahead and submit an application for podcasting here. And I was like, well, let me read this document first. And then I got into it and I was like, oh, I might have to talk with my sister about this. Like, it's ultimately, I'm going to sign it. I'm going to submit it, right? But there definitely are some things that make it feel a little less good. And makes me wonder, is it just like, well, this was the lawyers, right? And it wasn't communicated to the community manager, or was this a compromise between the two? It's always hard to know how much go-between there is between departments like that in particular.
Or was it just stock language that got put in, right? Like they may have taken like another agreement that was similar and said, okay, well, this is like 90% of it, and then just tweaked it. And I mean, there are some parts of it that feel kind of contradictory even within itself. And
yeah,
so it's a little bit weird. That might get revised, as
I mean, the
things go on,
program's
but
been
also,
out for 4 hours. So like,
yeah.
I think all this kind of stuff is under scrutiny as well with the OGL stuff over at Wizards. So everyone, when some kind of legal document comes out, they're like, let me just go through this.
I want the universe, the greater universe. Just listen to me real quick here. Can we take a minute? I want no layoffs, no legal drama, no cancellations. Just take a minute for the next couple days, universe. Just let everyone keep their jobs and be cool. And that's it. That's it. If I had a genie with 3 wishes, my first wish would be no bullshit today. That's just none today. We'll see. I know that's an unrealistic goal. Anyways. Oh yes, current head in chat. Sorry capitalism exists. Well, that's a segue. Let's talk about subscription service. Now, I think this is a positive, but again, we don't know. So there was a survey that went out. We didn't get the survey, or at least I didn't get the survey. Did either of you two get the survey? I don't think so.
I did not get the survey.
No.
I kind of want you to splice in the Animaniacs, would you like to take a survey, voice clip into this?
Yeah, I think never gotten one of these surveys.
I got one of these a while ago, but not this one.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is some internal mechanism for Blizzard to remove people from the survey pool that they hear from anyways, like us. I have never gotten one of these surveys. They don't have any trouble finding my opinions. It would be a waste of everybody's time. So, Blizzard is sounding out how much players will pay for a Hearthstone subscription. Now, we didn't get the survey. We haven't seen it. I would bet against this replacing the acquisition model of paying money for packs. I do not believe this is a replacement. I would bet this is a supplement. We don't know exactly. What we do know is that This article says there were 4 options detailed in the survey. All of these are monthly subscriptions. All of these are standard. $10 a month for all standard cards in a class of your choice. $20 a month for all standard cards, period. $10 a month for all standard cards except the current expansion. And one monthly price of $10 for the current top-performing deck for 3 classes of your choice. Thoughts, feelings, reactions. Edelweiss, you go first.
So I think that there are some people that this would be depending which of these, but certain ones, they would just be a snap purchase. I kind of, some of them seem weird, but when you think about it, make a little more sense. Like I'm thinking of the gives you all except the current expansion. That's sort of someone who's like just getting back in, and so maybe they bought the pre-order bundle, but they just don't have anything from the last year and change, and so you can just do that and be able to make stuff without having to worry about older cards. I think that the monthly subscription for all cards, I know so many people that would just be, yep, this is what I do now, because then there's just, you don't have to think about it.
So we have that. It's called the big bundle, right? Because if you're, it takes you, not if you're just starting out, right? But if you are an engaged player, you're buying the big bundle, right? That we get an expansion every 4 months. So if you break that down over, if you break that cost monthly, if you were to like put the expansion on layaway, right? Then it would be $20 a month. And if you're buying the big bundle every time a set comes out plus gold, you're probably getting most of the cards, or I've already got like 7,000 gold in my account, after, and it's like this set's been out for what, like a month, because I had gold left over and I bought one, I got the big bundle and that's it, and then I got enough cards with duplicate protection, and then start saving up for the next one immediately, and it works out that way. So I don't, like, I think they might change. That it would be pretty easy for them to change it that way if that's what they're going to do, because they're getting the same amount of money ultimately. Because how often, if you're buying the big bundle every time, right? Unless you're getting packs with like a portrait, like how often are you going to buy like one of like the golden legendary bundles or something like that? Like I would imagine, some people buy both bundles and that's fine, but I would imagine that there's not a whole lot of supplementary packs once you're at that kind of steady state, right? Like obviously when you're starting to get that collection set up, then that helps a lot. But ultimately the money is going to end up being the same, unless you need to go get back expansions.
So I will.
Oh no. I can't hear you at all. That's
I can't
not
hear
good.
either.
It's your mic.
Now it's this is just cursed. We've cursed the episode. That's it.
Okay. I think we're back.
Heard
I think we're
something.
back.
Back? All right.
Yeah, we're back. Okay, go ahead.
And
Did you restart
I
your
hope it
recording?
did not cut off in the middle. I did, but I might have to re-record something when I edit. Okay. Yeah, now I don't remember what I was saying.
I didn't hear it, so I can't help you.
Yeah, neither can
It was probably about, so we talked about spending, subscription, backlog, I think.
Yeah, so I think that, for a while I have, used a code for myself, and so I've been able to get both bundles. Or maybe like I would, get one bundle with a code and get one myself, whatever. And I also play a bunch. So as they have made things more and more accessible in terms of getting cards, I've gone from, okay, well, I definitely have every card, to with this last one, they introduced signatures, and I have all signatures except one. So I think they've definitely been doing stuff to make it better, but I think there's still a chance with just the mega bundle if you are not playing as much as we are, right? That you won't necessarily get everything from just that. Maybe you don't have a ton of gold. Maybe you're the kind of person that never stores up gold, right? Which exists where, basically every time you hit 100, you get a pack of whatever the current set is. And for that person, it could just be much easier to just pay definitely $20 a month to have all the standard cards. Or, some people that just have more money than time. I know my brother and one of his friends are in this situation, right? They're developers making plenty and might not keep up with things to even know when the bundle is out, but would be interested in being able to play whatever deck they want whenever they feel like playing. And so to that person, something where you can just subscription be able to play all the cards or have all the standard cards, that could be a big deal. Now this does raise some questions of like what will happen to Wild if fewer people are getting cards, because you won't just have stuff to then play in Wild anymore. And I honestly just don't know what to do about that.
I think that the kind of people that this is going to appeal to are the kind of people who tend to dust all their cards as soon as they rotate out anyway, for the most part. So
Maybe.
but yeah, I mean,
know.
it's a concern. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't think they would lose much money if they were to implement this. Like, it doesn't sound crazy to me that they could go that way if they wanted to, if give people another way to give them effectively the same money that they would be getting otherwise, but in a way that feels a little bit, a little bit less of like an outlay at the time. Because like you look at $80, like, do I really play the game that much? Do I want to spend all this money? If it's, $20 a month is still a lot, but I mean, people pay $15 a month for WoW access, right? So
Right.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. I think the other thing to keep in mind when looking at this is that presumably, assuming that this deal with Microsoft goes through, there will be all of the Blizzard games will be offered in one form or another on Game Pass. And we just saw this. Riot just got hooked up with Game Pass. I think it was last month. If you have a Game Pass account, you get all the champions in League of Legends. You get and in Wild Rift, which is the mobile version, and you get access to the entire Foundation set in League of Runeterra, Legends of Runeterra. So that's kind of a precursor to what they might be doing. This is kind of like getting the core set, except that there is no core set in Runeterra. You have to earn all the cards. So this kind of gives you a leg up on not having to earn all of the cards that are in the original set. And I'm not sure what it looks like in Runeterra because I haven't been playing much, but in League, you just basically it's like the free rotation for League champions, except they're all on free rotation all the time. So like if you want to get a skin for them, you still have to buy them properly. But if you want to play them, you can just play them, as is. So that sounds like the kind of thing that they would be exploring. Like, how are we going to because World of Warcraft is they probably just waive the subscription fee, right? Like that's probably just what they do. If you want to play WoW with Game Pass, that's probably just what they do. And like they'll probably give you Diablo 3, maybe, probably, and I would imagine Diablo 4 because all the Microsoft exclusives are on Game Pass. Hearthstone's a little weird because it's a free to play game, so then they have to be a little bit more creative in what they're gonna offer when they get to Game Pass. And I think that might be what's going on, assuming that deal goes through. And even if not, that might be something that they're considering.
Game Pass, I think, is a big part of why this question is being asked right now. Like, I don't know, but I would guess. But also, this is... Like, I don't think the $20 thing is going to happen. Because I think you're, at that point, realigning how the game is priced, period. I think a lot of people would just say, okay, subscription, never think about it again, never play Wild again, never play Duels again, never crafting a card, whatever. It's just like, it's $20 a month when I'm in, and then otherwise not. The $10 for every expansion except the current one solves the what do I craft problem. And because right now, it's January 26th. Someone's saying, hey, I want to come back. What do I buy? What do I craft? We say, 1, probably wait until rotation. 2, probably Astalor. Didn't he just get nerfed? Yeah, probably anyway. But otherwise, like, what do you do if someone wants to play Paladin? Do you craft Cariel? If you want to play Mage, do you craft Dawn Grasp? What do you do? Do you do that? Probably not. Probably not a great idea. But if I was able to say to someone, $10 and the $50 pre-order, right? Something like that. $60, you get to do whatever. And if you want to just try it out first, just $10 right now, try stuff out, see how you like the game. You can play, if that offer was today, go play Import Lock or Beast Hunter. $10 today, try it out for as long as you want for a month, and then go buy the pre-order if you like it. And if you don't, then you know. And if you want to check in and check out at any point, you can do that. But needing the new cards keeps healthy card flow into the other formats and also doesn't completely redefine what it costs to play Hearthstone in a way that is more player favorable but also different, dramatically different. Because the $20 like for every card would be just a huge, huge change. And I think that the subscription model is strictly an upgrade. It is strictly more player friendly and also totally isn't for the people listening to this show. If you are currently a highly engaged player, that's not what this is trying to do. This is new and returning players. Everything they've done, so many of the features they've done are just for new and returning players because they've got a huge problem with new and returning players. It's hard. Hearthstone's a lifestyle game. You have to buy a bunch of stuff and play all the time, and you have to make that decision right at the beginning. And they've done so many things to break those walls down. With the rewards track, definitely better for the players. We can say that for sure. Loner decks are awesome. And that was the replacement system for new player decks, which was the replacement system for slower new player decks once ever. They've done a lot of different things, and this would be the end of that trajectory. But if you're listening to this show right now and you are already an engaged Hearthstone player, just shrug your shoulders and move on. It doesn't have to matter to those of us that are already in there unless you want to be the mythical part-time Hearthstone player. And that is what the game has been missing for a long time, is a way to be the part-time Hearthstone player. Because think about how many things are competing for our time right now. If I want to play for 1 or 2 months out of every expansion, I can do that a lot more easily with the subscription thing. And it probably still is less money overall. But I can just do that and not feel like I'm missing out on anything because it's either the cards are there or not there. And I think that's a really compelling thing for them to offer. Because they're not really cannibalizing anybody that's currently buying their packs. They're just taking players who say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not going to play at all, to I'll play a little. More is better than none. Like, some is better than none. It has to be.
Yeah, like if they did this in... Sorry, go ahead.
If I were not creating content, in the form of this podcast and other things, I would just jump on most of these, maybe any of these that got implemented, particularly because I have been playing more other games. I think games have been really good in the last few years in terms of stuff I like. Elden Ring, getting into God of War, Horizon, Divinity 2. Like, there's just been all kinds of stuff that is also pulling at our time. And we all have Steam libraries that will never get cleared. So yeah, as you're saying, that feeling the ability to play part-time. I think the other thing it addresses is it doesn't feel as bad then, like, oh, I have to do my dailies every 3 days, right? Someone can feel much better about, well, okay, yeah, I'm losing some value, but I'm still going to be able to play at the level that I would like because I'm not going to be missing out on cards.
Yeah. Like if they did this in Magic Arena, I'd jump on it in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like, because also that game's economy is a disaster.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the game where like I missed an expansion or two and then like I'm not playing the game for a while because like, you just can't catch up at all. And like I really just play the draft, and I need to the only reason I even care about having a constructed deck is to be able to earn enough gold to be able to play drafts, and that's difficult. But I mean, if I could experience more of the game than like mono red, then I might play it more, right? So
queuing D-Gen mono red deck to try and finance sustainable drafting. It's like I'm in high school again. Sounds so familiar. All right. I think we got through the major news items, except for one. Snow Flipper Penguin's coming back to Standard! So, Chalky proposed this amazing poll that was run on the Play Hearthstone of which 0-mana 1/1 is gonna be in core next year. Is it Wisp, which is undead now? No.
I didn't know that. I would have voted for Wisp if I knew
It's
that it was
undead. Is it Desk Imp, which is a demon and an imp? Is it Murloc Tinyfin, which is an adorable Murloc? Or is it the correct choice, which is Snow Flipper Penguin? Guess which one won. Guess.
the correct one.
It was the Penguin.
Good.
Yeah.
Even despite Cora trying to lobby as hard as she could for Murloc Tinyfin, even saying some slanderous things about our dear sweet Snow Flipper Penguin, and also Desk Imp, but those things are justified. Like he doesn't, he's got a pen, but he doesn't know how to write clearly. Like that's just science. That's fine. But the slander against Snow Flipper Penguin was like an American political campaign. The level of negative campaigning that was there.
Downright uncalled for. So, glad this happened. Fun thing. I needed a little bit of levity in my life before we get to the last couple news items, which we're going to touch on briefly just because show's been going on for a while and I can't take more sadness in my life. But the China server is shut down on Tuesday. We knew this was coming, and that happened. So, really, really sad. I would bet against this being resolved anytime soon. The anti-Blizzard sentiment is really, really high right now, and it's a total bummer for the players that the game's just gone. And hopefully it comes back someday, but really devastating, really, really rough. So, the China players, heart goes out to you. It's the rumors here that it's all about ABK Corporate. Would not be surprised if that's the case, but also we don't know any of the specifics. I just know that it sucks.
Yeah, and apparently, the chance of them getting another partner to work with them are pretty low, because apparently none of the other partners are willing to negotiate with them. Is what I've been reading, because of the way that this deal ended. It was so it's you need a partner in China to work with you on anything internet related, and none of the other companies in that country are willing to work with Blizzard either. And they asked NetEase for an emergency 6 months extension, and NetEase was too busy tearing down the orc statue to entertain that idea, and probably rightfully so, unfortunately.
My guess would be that Blizzard won't be able to get a deal, but Microsoft might. So the best hope for the China server is probably that the merger goes through. And in addition, this is not Hearthstone, but is Blizzard General. There's a great guy named Brian Birmingham, who was the lead of the WoW Classic test team, who is no longer with Blizzard, and this made the news, which is why we're talking about it. There's a stack ranking policy at Activision Blizzard King, the parent company, passed down, where a certain number of employees have to get the lowest score. The developing score. They have to get the lowest score. It's performance review scores are just metered out across a bunch of different scores, and there are requirements for, maximums for the top ranks and minimums for the bottom ones. And the people who get developing scores are not eligible for merit increases or bonuses. And they are required to management is required to give out a certain number of these scores. And Brian said the person who was getting this score does not deserve it. They are not developing. They are successful. The only reason that I would even think about it is because you're telling me I have to, and I don't want to. So they deserve a successful score. And he is no longer with Blizzard. He posted a long and excellent Twitter thread. We'll have it linked in the show notes. Where, like, the most clear thing that really stood out to me was he said that he holds no ill will towards his Blizzard colleagues. Just that the Blizzard he loves is being torn apart by the parent company. And this is a sentiment that doesn't seem super out of the blue. It seems like the sort of thing that is at least hinted at by a lot of other people that have been at Blizzard for a long time. Let me find the exact quote here. Yeah, I bear no ill will towards my former colleagues at Blizzard Entertainment. The Blizzard I knew and always wanted to work for is being torn apart by the executives at ABK, and it makes me sad. I truly respect the developers I worked with at Blizzard. I still play Blizzard games. The developers at Blizzard are still amazing. Dragonflight and Wrath of the Lich King Classic are gems. But ABK is a problematic parent company. They put us under pressure to deliver both expansions early. It is deeply unjust to follow that by depriving employers who worked on them their fair share of the profit. The ABK team should be ashamed of themselves. So, that is heavy, but the reality of what's going on, and this is a sentiment that at least has crossed our desk before on this show and elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's just the reason, and Microsoft, I looked up when they stopped doing it. It was like 2012 or 2013. They used to be like infamous for this, right? And what ends up the thing that puts you into this kind of mentality is the same thing. Like if you think of anyone who's looked at a deck in HS Replay and sorted it by like drawn win rate, and then went to go cut the bottom card, right, or the bottom two cards, because those are the lowest win rate cards. So they must be bad. So let me go take those out. And that's not how things work in teams, right? And I mean, it's not how things work in decks either. Like everyone contributes, and it's not always the case that everybody who's in a team is going to be competing against each other, which is what you end up with in a system like this. It's if like a rising tides, lifts all boats, right? Like there are, if you're developing your talent correctly, and everybody's able to pitch in and contribute and be successful, like that's what makes you a good manager. If you're able to make everyone on your team successful, like that is the hallmark of a good manager. But I think that a lot of the companies in the past that have done this, and it shocked me that ABK implemented this in 2021, like years and years after the debacle at Microsoft. Generally, it comes with a mentality that the people who you're evaluating at the individual contributor level are effectively replaceable, right? Like if you have somebody who's at the bottom, like every team's going to have a worst person, and you could just get somebody better if you got rid of them and looked on the market for somebody better. And in a company in that industry, or I mean in tech in general, but certainly in game dev, I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to operate that way for a long time, right? Like one of the things that comes with being a dream job is that there is a lot more people who want to get in than are there, right? And so there's always kind of that you could use that to your advantage if you're an employer who wanted to take advantage of that. I'm not saying that that's necessarily what was going on, but that's kind of the impression that you get when you start putting in a system like this. So I'm hopefully, I mean, I think we all care about the people who are working in Blizzard particularly, and I mean in the whole company, but the people who are affected by this, who are not necessarily speaking out about this. And Brian, to be clear, didn't talk to the media like I think, I forget who was it that broke the story, just ended up like talking to some other people around him and then wrote the story and didn't necessarily, like, he didn't go to the media or anything, to his credit.
Jason
but-
Schreier found out and actually had emailed him, and Brian responded on Twitter, "That was my Blizzard address. It's not on anymore." But then they had since connected and talked about it, and Brian broke all this stuff on the news because he wasn't planning for this to get out. It wasn't to make a public statement, just to make a private one, but it ended up being a public one.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, there are, we interact with or we see those people on Twitter all the time, and we ultimately everyone should feel safe in the job that they're working in. And this is a system that very often makes people feel unsafe because they feel like they're competing with the other person in their peer group, right? In order to, at very least, not get the rating that's going to take away their bonus or their profit sharing or whatever it is. And in some of those cases, it leads to the people who are at the bottom being the ones considered for layoffs or just being fired as a matter of course, which I think is what used to happen at Microsoft a lot. And it's not a great way to work. I'm really shocked that I was just shocked that this is still being used in a company after we've learned what, in excruciating detail from Microsoft, what the negative impacts of it are.
Yeah. I think of grading on, a bell curve, right? And how horrifying that always was in college. Usually it was because the test was absurdly difficult. And so everyone's scores would otherwise have been D's or something. But by doing this curve thing, you took the highest one and okay, that was the 100. And then you went down. It's a very weird thing. But when you think about that in terms of, well, but what about the scenario where, you've got 10 people, everyone gets a different amount of 90 some percent, right? Everyone's 99s, 98s, 97s. You really want to fire the 96 or 97 in the hopes of getting another 98? It's a big oof, and you have to bring someone into the team again. They need to be trained on all kinds of stuff for that team. It doesn't even seem like it would really make all that much sense financially either. It's bad culturally, and you have to train new people. It's
dumb.
Yeah.
It's a dumb thing to do.
By
the way, what other company did stack ranking? Enron. Enron did this.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I mean, if when you're seeing people as individuals, different people have different strengths, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're, they can be judged against each other. When I do performance reviews, I'm not thinking about anybody else on my team when I'm writing that performance review. I'm just measuring that person against the expectation of the position they're in, right?
You were
which is the right way
legally
to
not
do it.
supposed to judge against other people. It's
Right.
I write a
Yeah.
lot of performance reviews too, and it's a lot of the things that you're not supposed to do are specifically encouraged by the system. Now, to be fair, most management rating systems like this are born out of a tendency to centrally rate and not rock the boat, because most people are just, management is hard and most people aren't fit for it, and especially in technical positions. A lot of people are highly technically skilled people that are there long enough. It's hey, teach other people how to be like you, and they're talented individual contributors but not great managers. So there are these systems that at least have the intention of how do we account for human folly. But the system itself in this case is much, much worse than the problem that would happen. And especially at places where you're hiring a lot of really good people and theoretically paying them a bunch of money, which, that's a conversation for another podcast. If you have stringent hiring standards, then you should not need to give a bunch of bad scores, because you should already be hiring good people. Now, there is still the issue of interviewing, of mistaking arrogance for talent and mistaking laziness for independence. There are still things where a person can be a smart person but not a good fit for a team. There can be people that are almost good enough but don't quite make it. But you need to empower the managers, make sure the right managers are in position, and then let them make the call and believe them and trust them. And this system does not engender any kind of trust at any level of the organization. And an organization without trust is a dysfunctional organization. Unfortunately, as we've seen, that meets the picture of ABK and Blizzard as a whole, and this is merely a symptom of that problem.
Yeah, and just it probably doesn't need to be said, but like anyone who's enforcing these things is doing it because they have to, right? Like there's not a choice here. I mean, there is a choice, and Brian took it, but most people, not everyone is in that position where they can, just walk away, right? And financially or otherwise. So, I mean, I don't think that anybody's at fault for enforcing these systems because that's the system that they're required to work in. But it's an executive level decision to do that, and hopefully this shedding some light on this will bring some change, and again make it a little bit of a safer and healthier work environment for our friends who are making the games that we love.
Yeah. All right. I can't handle any more news. We're going to go to the outro now. That's what we're going to do. We have many folks to like to thank. Check out the thanks section on the website, coincd.com. You can find our contact info, our show notes, and our patron information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, heading over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. By the way, some cool updates coming to that soon. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doge Decay, Crush, Cap, Squatch, David P, Fade to Black, Wild Lou, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, Lucky, Grumpy Monk, Kreb Mart, and The Burger Club. Crush, thank you so much for the sub. Coin Concedes. I'm ready, so I'll go first, because neither of you are. Young Dada in the Discord, congrats on your legend push. I know that you had been working for it for a while. Really glad that you were able to make it. And then Alicia, over on the features team. She's great. She's the powerlifter I talked about with the art connections a couple weeks ago. She got COVID. So, Alicia, I am sorry you have COVID, and I hope you feel better. And I'm glad that Amelia brought you over Theraflu, and I hope that you recover soon. All right. Who's ready for Coin Concede? Somebody go.
Sure. So I'm just going to coin concede to everyone that I have to do coaching for this month who's been patient and flexible in terms of it's been this, oh, is the patch going to be Tuesday? Oh, no, it's Thursday. All right. You cool with doing, after the patch? So lots of moving around. Going to be finishing up scheduling some of those before the end of the month and maybe even just tapping into early February. But thank you for your patience.
Yeah. Also, by the way, while I'm here, I'm going to Coin Concede to Edelweiss for having to edit this monstrosity of an episode. Good luck.
Gonna be fun.
Yeah. Steve?
I'm gonna Coin Concede to Lorinda. He's been streaming pretty regularly the last couple weeks. His stream is delightful, and it's especially on weekends when I don't really have anything else to watch anyway. It's been good to be able to hang out there. I wish I could hang out more, when I don't have meetings, but I don't ever not have meetings. But and apparently, according to Soddle, he's going to be learning Phylactery Warlock on stream tomorrow. And that will be quite a spectacle. I'm expecting. It should be quite entertaining. So I am looking very much forward to that. So
I might have to tune in there.
I think you might. I think it will be worth your time.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna do it for our show this week. So, keep calm and, I don't know, try and find some good news this week, man, because there's been a lot. Keep calm and good luck with whatever brews you run on ladder. And if you see us there, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Outro. All right.
380.
Next week we'll be happy, or else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm going to bring the stream down now. But see you all next week.
Bye.